Teresa Ribeiro. Welcome to the Neuroarchitect.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for having me here today.
Please tell us more about your career path and the motivations behind your focus on cognitive architecture.
Okay, Maria. So my background, I'm an architect, and I have a background also in real estate, and nowadays in research. And I was starting my path with the focus on historical buildings because of heritage, all the cultural wave behind the existing buildings, and also because I'm from Portugal. And as you know, we have a lot of heritage and old buildings, and mostly our history and the culture that we study at school is around that. Um, the way that we interact with the buildings and the history that they told us. And I was really young because I was raised in a farm, not in Lisbon, in the countryside. And we lived in one of these buildings, old historic buildings. And in my imagination realm, I wanted to rebuild the old life, like cultural life. And I think I had like 6 years and I thought, yeah, I will be an architect. And my goal will be refurbishing and restore all the old buildings in the country and make it new, that people in nowadays can live and continue their lives. So it was the starting of architecture interest and path. And then I went to university in Lisbon, but the focus was always cultural, economic, and historical interaction within the existing buildings. So I started looking for master degrees in this topic. And when I went to the last year of the university, it was the Erasmus idea. I'm not that young in Portugal. It was early stages of the program, and we had to choose different countries, and I chose to go to Rome. So actually for the culture and the historical buildings. And I had this huge opportunity to get to know really, really good the evolution and also the historic around the heritage, and also the way that evolves and people interact with that culture, and people can be shaped by the historical buildings. And for me, it was really, really a nice discovery. And I'll start looking more like this, like how communities adapt to existing buildings, and the opposite, how the buildings adapt to the new ways of living in communities and society. And then when I come back, I didn't come back to Portugal. I met some people in Rome and from Barcelona. And I wanted also to know better Barcelona, because at that time was the idea of a living city, and it was, and it still be a really vibrant city, and where you can actually see every day the changes in and the city, and all the landscape of the city is renewing every day renewing. So they keep the essence of the culture and the historical buildings, but you actually interact every day doing refurbishing new buildings, and you see it as a different type of people that lives there from all over the world, and young and older people. And then I finished my university, and I went to Barcelona to work. And I have this huge and rich opportunity to work in a very, very nice studio. It calls Carlos Ferrater. At that time, I made very important buildings and projects. And I also worked in social housing projects. And it was, I think, where I just find my purpose at that time. So I was really happy to see how a project can improve people's lives and how your work can help that. So I switch a little bit from the idea of the heritage and culture and historical buildings, like transmit knowledge, maybe cultural knowledge and tradition, for the other part of the new buildings that can improve people's lives. So maybe complementary, but it was a different approach. And I also start working in Architects Without Borders.
Which year was that?
2004.
Mm.
2004. Yeah. And I started my master degree in Barcelona, where I finished in restoration in monumental and historical buildings, as I wanted. And the good thing is that we were talking about Gaudi, everything about Cerdà was the plan, the city plan, Cerdà, how it can adapt to new ways of life, and how Gaudi still be contemporary in that time, that we look at this amazing biophilic buildings and inspirations in nature and how it shapes us. So slightly my path was changing from one perspective to the other perspective, the social perspective of the built environment. And yeah, I finished my master degrees in Barcelona, but then I had to come back to Lisbon, family issues, and I just start working in my company. And it is a real estate company. We are developers, but we develop urbanization, so it is more like a landscape and urban scale, not just building scale. And I was just really starting to get to know how to deal with the municipalities, with legislation and existing communities. And it was a jump, a really, really important jump, but still having the opportunity to engage with the social value and the social impact of the buildings. But as you said, we couldn't measure that, but we start to measure other thing as I was engaged in with business and economical value. I could start realize that the improvements that you made in certain parts of the urban tissue, it will help develop the other underdeveloped parts. So if you act like if you bring some new and equability, like if you think that I'm not imposing my design, I'm just acting like a mediator between the existing communities, and I'm trying to connect and improve, bringing new ways of life. You add value also to these existing communities, so you value your assets and your developments, but you also valuing and creating a better life for the existing communities. And it was really nice at that time, because I was not just that focused on social, on improving people. I was really focused on economics because I had to rule a company. And I made that's post-graduation degrees on real estate investment management. I had the opportunity to went to United States, to Harvard, where I looked at this economic shock in all program. I was the only architect, and I was one of the few women. It was really interesting for me, but I realized that the most business-driven decisions are not looking for the humanitarian part, so the social part. They are looking for the value. But I was trying also to understand and to spread the word that the way that you improve people's lives also create economical value. And then I have the opportunity to get to know new architecture and start to see the way that you can also measure that impact. So the impact that you do on people, that the buildings do on people, and could also create with value and creation of value. And yeah, maybe this will be my shifting point, I think, in 2008, 9, I think, more or less, when I start to realize that the economic value is linked to the social value, and also that if you don't measure, you don't manage, right?
Mhm.
And yes, so I think the key was also when I went to work in Mozambique in Africa, and it was really that the shifting point when you realize when you help people and you can with the built environment really change people's lives. And also we engage in the community, we work with NGOs, and it was really important for me that time because we lived there as a locals, not as an entrepreneurs, external. And yes, I think this is my path. And I'm still in Lisbon. We are working in different types of projects right now and communities and spreading the world in your architecture.
A fast question. How did you find out that you can measure how people interact with the space?
How I find out. I was really looking for sociology when I went to university, and at that time I wasn't aware of the termination of epigenetics.
Mm.
And epigenetics, yeah, the way that the environment can change even your DNA, right? And I have this huge motivation that no matter what place on earth you get birth, you can, um, if you are raised and if you interact with the different environments that can shape you deeply. And I was focused on how you can demonstrate this. How can you demonstrate that your environment really can change you in a way that you are different person? You have different interests, and you are like a different person. I was really thinking on um, poor neighborhoods. I was thinking on maybe we are really shaped for different realities. Here we have the ex-colonies, we have also Brazil, and here in Lisbon, in Portugal, we connect with a lot of different communities. We have also from India, Middle East. And at that time, I was thinking on how, yeah, in Portugal in the 80s, we had the revolution on 70s, but in the 80s we have this massive construction with peoples in ghettos, and we start with very high rates of violence and criminology. And I thought that maybe if we change the environment of these people, we can change also their behaviors. And I was focused on that, on ghettos and poor neighborhoods. But how can I demonstrate really that the space can change people's behavior? And at that time, I stopped thinking not that much about measuring. And I think when I get engaged with ANFA 5, 6 years ago, and with all the community, I I thought it was a key not just for investors, but mostly for policymakers, because they can see how investing and changing environments you can improve people's lives. And also, I think the rates, so health rates, crime rates, all of these rates you can link to, yeah, to the behavior. And within neuroarchitecture, you can measure so the neurophysiology, behaviors, biosensors. You can correlate all these measurements for the
And
outcomes, I think.
you know what you did actually was that you tried first of all to restore the historical monuments. So you were trying to bring the past of the communities to their present. You were trying to revive the identity and for people to be more like aware of how they got what they have in the present. And then you switch to the social. So you were also grounding people in their present, because when you have, like, when you are in a disaster or when you live in some difficult conditions, you cannot enjoy the present space, the present moments. So actually, what you did was shifting from the past to the present, and also like bringing people from hoping for a future to also being grounded in the present. So this is how you linked, I believe, what the the
Yes.
um, the topics or the specializations that people will find maybe a little bit, maybe how did she match this area to this area? But this is how I can see it.
Yes, it was. It was. Yeah, I
Mm.
think more likely to think of the built environment as partner, and not a static, but a dynamic object that, yeah. with you and grow with you and help you to thrive and help you to engage, and it's part of your community. So it's not just an object, not a living object. I always saw buildings like like that. And when I was in Barcelona, I had this amazing director of the master degree. He's still alive. He's an old man, really, really nice. And he just told us that we need to fill the buildings, but the buildings also filled us. So we have this relationship of both sides of the feelings, and when you see that as a partner, as a
It's
like
Churchill
others, and
saying, actually. Churchill said, the
yes,
building
shape
shape
us and we shape the
the. Mhm,
buildings. It is more like the idea that they are in this path with us. So we are living, they stay, but they will be
mhm,
for another community, for another stage. And
mhm.
you're right. Yeah,
Actually, it's a
this idea.
story. So when you want to read the story of a place, you need to start from the first chapter to understand the end, or at least like the last chapter to be continued.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Could you share an example of a project where you implemented your knowledge in neuroarchitecture and tell us the impact it had?
Okay. So, we are now starting a really important project here. We don't build in the center of Lisbon. We build in peripheral areas, and most we do mixed use developments, as I told you, in an urban scale, and for middle class
Mm,
Portuguese families. So it's our main target. And now we are launching one new development. Is also an urbanization, and is near a poor neighborhood. And we are trying to put all these concepts. It's going to be 6 multifamily housing buildings, mixed use. We have also 15 townhouses. It's a really nice landscape with a nice view, but it's near a problematic neighborhood. So we have this meetings and negotiation with the municipality and also with the existing communities. And now we are working on that, creating community. And also the main goal is to build affordable quality housing. So with all the principles of health, well-being, quality, but affordable. And I think it will be a really nice project. The first building will start now, and I think maybe March of this year. It will be, I think, maybe 10 months of construction is the pilot one. We're partnership with a Spanish company also. And yeah, this I think would be mostly the main project that I'm working on right now. Past projects I worked in partnerships with different architects from other countries, mostly from Brazil, and we worked in a community for also residential developments and with the principles of neuroarchitecture. And this is the architecture book, and we have also a research group. We are now into research engaged. From one is collecting data to measure the impact of the commercial real estate buildings and their workers. And it's a partnership with a company. We are doing the measurements before the intervention. They are refurbishing the headquarters, and we'll take also cost occupancy evaluation. And it's a partnership that we have with the University of Lisbon, mainly the Medicine University and a lab that they launched over there. Is the team from the Emotional Cities project. It's called Spec Urban, is a spin-off from the University of Lisbon. My work now, we are partnering on this research project. So, and as you know, I launched the Portuguese Academy of Neuroarchitecture. We are also with different approaches and spreading the word and having some ideas and collaborations. We are launching courses online. also consultancy and support for the community. Yeah, so mainly is now where we are on focus.
What do you find the most challenging in the project in Portugal, for example? For example, the air, or maybe water, or any maybe people accepting it, or decision makers accepting what you're trying to do.
You ask me in implementing the neuroarchitecture principles, or you are asking me in general in type of projects like the issues of the environment? You're asking
In both cases.
both cases. Okay, perfect. So, and nowadays, as all Europe, we have this huge housing issue, as it was launched last week. The main guidelines from European Union to try to mitigate this issue and launching more houses, affordable and quality houses. In Portugal, we are not different from the rest of Europe. We have a really huge lack of supply in housing, and the housing prices are really high, and we don't have market, we don't have supply. And I think the main issue right now for implementing new architecture principles are, I think, first, the knowledge that we don't have much community in Portugal that have the knowledge from the new architecture. And as I've been said this, I think is more focused on the existing architects that are not aware of, and most of the times it is a barrier of communication. Um, they think that is not really a new thing, and it is not relevant for the
Mm.
practice. So this is, I think, for implementing the first big issue is penetrating the architect industry and the way that still be working. The second issue, I think, is trying to demonstrate that you can do really good development based on new architecture principles without spending too much in the first investment cost. The idea is like sustainability is much expensive. So new architect is like sustainability, and we will need to spend much more money and in the first early stages. So need to demonstrate long-term value, but not
Yes.
that you can also do the right things with not necessarily spending more money. I think this is the second communication.
This is the factor that we all try to prove, and we all try to demonstrate that you don't need to spend much, you don't need to spend more, neither time nor money, and you can get very nice results that will give you a long-lasting building that will not cause any problems, and it's the opposite that will even like enhance the quality of life for the residents and for the users and people who will use it from the exterior when they will pass next on a daily basis, for example.
Sure, for sure. And I think this all again, it's a communication. And also, you need to have more benchmarked. You need to have examples, and you need to have the numbers, as I said. If you don't measure, you don't manage. So you need to demonstrate with numbers. And I think that the project that I told you before that we are launching now would be really, really a benchmark. And I want to do it like for that also. So these are the main issues. And also the third for me is related to policymakers, is that um, what is the price of construction bad quality but fast, just to have housing for people, or not that fast but with good quality? So the price on building fast without quality in the long term, like quality, people will lose health, public health, all of these issues, and the price of doing things with a little bit more time and expand and project and management and planning with the good principles. And then you have not actually, as we said, more expensive houses, but better houses. So I think for now is this three big issues. And the
But you know,
environment.
with the right support, you will not also spend that much time.
Yes, the key is putting that on agenda. And I also said this is not the the amount of houses, is how and the type and the quality of the houses. And this must be put it in the policies and the people that are the decision makings and yeah, and also who are just in the competitions, the juries in the competitions, that they need to have these guidelines and be aware of who the ones who they will choose, because they are not going to be 100% based on financial uh, ideas. Until now, all the competitions in Portugal, they look for the economic and the financial excel. No, they don't look for this kind of things like long-term value and people, how this will impact people health, well-being, and ultimately a community flourishing. No, that's our principles. And I think these are the big issues. And we need to get together. We need to get together and have a strong community. And we need, as you said, also we need to make partnerships to be stronger and to have a response, an answer. When I pitch with other developers and they say, okay, I think this is a really nice idea, but show me, make me a project, make me we do an example with the company, with your group, your studies group. Yes, but yeah, still few who
Mm.
have this knowledge, and we need to spread more. We need to do it like a mainstream, like sustainability, environmental sustainability. And you know that you will save energy. This has to be embedded in your own project. When you start project as an architect, we know for wheelchairs, you need to have, yeah, a door with 85 centimeters. So when we start thinking in concept of our projects, we have to be embedded in this concept. So we know if we do this and that, and the public that we are working, and all the issues and necessities. And yeah, I think this is the main key. And when we arrive there, we will be really, really happy.
So we can tell also the public, and we can tell these people who we will be talking with for our projects, that it's like, um, the inventors or the technicians of a phone and the users of the phone. So they don't need to go into the details that we go to, but they can just get the result that they want, and they will see when we measure, because especially that this specialization is about measuring. So when we measure the post occupancy results, they will see that there is indeed a difference that we saw when we were doing the research. But these technical details, not everyone is obliged to go to this.
Of course. Yeah,
Mm.
for sure. And if you show that and linked with the value, and I think this is the key also when we all talk about that, and actually we start our conversation on that, and you link to the value, and the social value is linked with what with the buildings and what the neighborhoods and the cities engage and how they shape people and quality of life. And you can extract the value and link this value that we call the social value, the social, with economical value. So this is the next step. And you start applying real, so science and social science to economics. So you just can demonstrate with the data that this is possible. And I think this is also the game changer in our main communities and principles.
Also, when I mentioned the challenge of air and water, so maybe some people will think that these uh, challenges can only be or should be only focused on in areas with difficult situation. Let's say they will think of other places, of other continents somewhere very far. But um, the fact is that all these details of environment and of movement of the person must be taken into consideration in every project. And sometimes, even in the most developed places, there will be some issues related to these factors.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with you. And also, I think that if you not think in a building or in a neighborhood for the people that are going to use them, and try to advocate also the users for this awareness that you're talking about. So the build will not perform, but also people not be aware. So you can also think about and how the building could be also what one way to mitigate these issues. And the way to mitigate these issues is the way that you also help the behavior of the people. So you're not sustainable. The building is not sustainable if they don't help people to manage all these issues and all these situations. And I always use this as an example. The one building that was considered the most sustainable, environmental sustainable building in Amsterdam, and um, when they open and people start using the building doesn't perform as they were previously forecasting. And that's why, because they didn't thought about how people will behavior in that building. And as you said, as issues as water, energy, and all of this are linked with the behavior of the people and the awareness also. And this is really a key on knowledge, how to do it and how engage both things, no? And climate change, migrations,
Mm.
geopolitical situations,
Demographic
as you said,
changes,
demographic change. This is also behaviors that are changing. People are getting out of their homes and getting out of the countries, and also the building have this huge amount of responsibility to adapt and to that people can feel in a good way within this environment. So also another ethic responsibility for architects and for developers, not just environmental, but also all the situation. And talking about maybe AI also, they are shaping our lives, shaping the way we move, the way we behave, shaping the way we look to the future, right?
It's
And
very
how you see.
important. It's very important for people to see how much the architects go to many kinds of details from different angles. It's not just a building, and then we have some regulations, and then okay, we design something just to fit in the plot, and that's it. You live inside, we're fine. Some painting, some, I don't know, furniture, and that's it. No, we go to a lot of much more details, and we look at the person, at the community we're working for, from the person to the family to the bigger community. If it's a private or a public place, we think of so many different things, and it's really a very like a noble message that our mission also that we have to do for the communities we're building for.
Yes, respect, integration, integrity, acceptances,
Mm,
equity. So all of these principles are linked to the way we see the other,
mm.
the way
So
the
it's the
community.
technical part. It's the technical part. It's the study of the place, and it's about these values and ethics. You worked for different cultures also. Like you worked in different places for different cultures. Can you tell us like what you saw as a common point between them and one difference?
I think the common point, and this is interesting, that we only talk a few years ago about that, the idea of placemaking. Now everybody talk about placemaking, but the idea that you fit in a community, and rather you are not from that country, you are not from that community, but the way that you fit in that community, and you can also still have your cultural personal habits. I think this is transversal rather than Rome, rather in Barcelona, Maputo, rather in Lisbon, rather in different places. I think this idea of placemaking community and being accepted and feel home where is not your home. this is what I felt really, really common. And then different is your private life. When you are designing housing, you need to engage with the target, with your client, and try to understand how they will use that space and create a place, their place, right? And not just culture, but what you aim with your home, right? And this is totally different. And especially it was in Africa. We were building for not for people, right? Building new buildings in the center, and it was not high end, but it was high level developments. And even in that part of the society, you see that different layers and barriers of culture that are not like yours, and then you need to understand, and you need to respect, and you need to inhabit them. And the idea that I came from the colonizer and they look at me in a different perspective, me as a Portuguese, not me as
Mm.
an architect, no, as a Portuguese, and look at us like you again, you are here again. You want to exploit us again. And you need to fight and say, no, we are trying to help. We are trying to do something. And we are. And demonstrate that now we want to help you develop your economy or something. And the layers that you have. Yeah, it was knowledge, a lifelong knowledge.
Very interesting. It's very interesting. And you said not as me, but as the Portuguese. So you mentioned your personal identity and your national identity. And when you talked about this common point that people have, so everyone actually doesn't want to lose their personal identity, not even their local identity. But when they have to change a place, they need at some point to blend in at least the social identity of the place. So if they're not like very related to the neighborhood, they need at least to adapt to the public environment of this area without losing their personal identity, which they will be able to express it freely in their own personal space, like when you do the housing. But then there is this common place for everyone where everyone needs to compromise at some point and adapt at the other, no matter the nationality. So even if, let's say, it's a Portuguese, like it's a public space in Portugal, even the Portuguese will have to compromise. So if someone comes from outside this area or the country, they don't need to feel that people are rejecting them. They just need to know that everyone is compromising at some point and they will adapt. So this is also very important in terms of social, because also architects work on the fact of identity and on the public space to reflect an identity that can comprise everyone. So this is a part of it, and it's very important to for people to be aware of this point.
True. Totally right. Yeah, you can feel that, as you said, that for me is the transversal idea in all of the places that people really, need and aim to the community and the common space. So I think, building on what you were saying, totally right.
Is there a message or piece of advice you would like to leave with our audience?
Yes. So I think as we are in a new architecture awareness podcast, um, I would like to say that in our community we are building the future and starting bringing knowledge from universities and the academic world, the scientific world, and putting it in practice as a designers, as we can say, as managers, as myself as a developer, and everyone there in the communities. We are bringing this to to the old sector, to the old sector, to the all that stakeholders want to be engaged with. And this is a huge momentum where we can measure social sustainability, social impact of the built environment. And we can demonstrate that really what we are here is we do it empirically, or we thought with psychology and environmental psychology. Now we can measure it as a science and bring numbers. And as I said, what you don't measure, you don't manage, and improve the built environment, improve people's lives. And all the thing that I want to live is that when you have the knowledge, you have the responsibility. And if you don't act, it's also an ethical responsibility. So I will want to just live this message.
In this time of fast-paced development, we need to start intervening fast also to let's say to balance a little bit between technology and between keeping the human factor also, and the human health and well-being um, alive and impacted positively by what we are building.
And as we are now in a new era of building fast with AI, as you told you, Maria, and as we know, AI, they don't have empathy, don't have intuition, don't have common sense. So AI is what it is. And actually, we can use it in a good way, but they will never replace our skills, soft skills as an humans, as an architects, and building fast and with the technology. It doesn't has to mean giving out of this all concepts from culture that we're talking about, from placemaking, from health, mental health, social, economical also, and emotional health. And I think that together we are strong and our community is spreading a lot. And this is a really good sign. And also you see in a big communities, networking communities, I'm part of some of them. All of these big communities, networking communities focus on developments, buildings, real estate, technology. They'll start talking about the human factor, not just the behavior factor for management and as we said, environmental issues like saving water, saving energy. But now they are focused on the well-being. They are focused on how people engage with the workplace, for example, the productivity and the performance and all of that. So I think they are shifting the interests from one more technical behavior approach for a human and sensitive approach. So it's a good momentum, and it's just the only thing is keep going, spreading the word, and being more open to people with different ideas, with different approaches, and try to build together a better intention and a better approach for our field.
We need to be careful of 2 points here. So 7 years ago, actually, you reminded me, I had an interview where the presenter asked me about AI and if the machine can replace the human. And I told him, in the middle of this fourth industrial revolution and what happened, and then AI. So yes, it can deliver like technically related results, but it will always need the instructions of the expert who knows the human for whom like, we will be building. So it will deliver some random results if we don't intervene with our knowledge about the emotions of the human. So it will never replace architects. This is for sure. And today we are seeing the results of what I said like 7 years ago. We could foresee it actually. The second point is that like we give or we're talking about the importance of neuroarchitecture, human-centered design, but we need also to, let's say, help or guide people who want to work in this field to not fall in the titles like for marketing purposes or because it's a cool name. So also we need to um, spread more awareness about this for the public to know what they should expect, for decision makers to know what they should expect, and for people who would like to work in this field.
Yes, and also I think that we this is organic, and I think it's for the the logic of the development of the field. So that I think that they will happen. That will appear a lot of benchmarks and also thresholds and guidelines and frameworks. There are now some of them in the market coming out. Some ideas of frameworks, and as we had for the sustainability, environmental sustainability, we have all these guidelines and we have all this, I don't know how to say, but it's more like standards, right? Frameworks and standards. I think that this is ecologically it will happen. It will happen that some proof of quality, that some of thresholds and this guidelines for what you can measure it and the way you can
Mm.
measure it. Also
Evidence based.
evidence,
Evidence.
protocol, scientific protocols, and also,
Findings. Mm.
yeah. And this is now is like when you launch one idea and you don't have rules, and in certain of time there will be a legislation for this type of
Practice.
ideas and practice. I think that will be the same. These labs in universities, they will create some kind of um, standards and or certification. I don't know how to say it. The proof that the quality of your service and also your research, the way you apply the new architecture, and this will be must needed. This will be must needed and will be a guide for the people that want to apply it. I think like we have GRASP and we have GRI and we have other legislation in European Union. You have also the taxonomy and you have the ESG reports. And all of these are benchmarks also for behaviors and reports. And I think for new architecture will be the same.
Teresa, thank you so much for this interesting conversation.
Thank you, Maria, for having me. Thank you for all the ideas and the challenges that you put it on the conversation. It was really nice to change ideas with you, and I hope we can keep this conversation later if you want.
Of course. And
Thank you
thanks
so
for
much.
watching us.